Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Killer Creation. In this series, I create a killer and a survivor for the asymmetrical horror survival game Dead by Daylight. Try to remember that I do try to keep things balanced, but it doesn't always work out as well as I thought it would. But luckily, I get some fantastic feedback and discussions about the builds on the Dead by Daylight official forums, but I'd also love to get some here in the video comments, or even on Twitter, or the Dead by Daylight Amino, Horror Amino, or even the Furry Amino. Let me first take a moment to thank you all for watching from wherever you got the link from, because I post the link in a lot of different places. And if you're enjoying the content, please consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell to be the first to learn about a new video whenever I release one. The channel is still small, but we're growing, and that's all thanks to you. Now, let's dive into this week's killer creation, the Trickster. Pai Li was an Anarchy whose task was to hear and answer or punish the prayers at a shrine a few miles out from a small village. She tended the shrines for centuries until a man arrived. He was young, handsome, and his prayer was admirable. He asked for three things: a simple life, peace, and a love that would endure beyond the light of the world. The man's sincerity touched the Inari's heart, and she revealed herself to this mortal. She and the man fell instantly in love, and she allowed him to believe that she was a gift from the heavens in answer to his prayers. They lived happily for years until one day, Pai Li returned home to find bandits destroying their home. Just inside the door, she saw her husband lying in a pool of his own blood. He screamed with rage, and her illusion faded to reveal her true kitsune form. The men turned to find the Inari bearing down on them. Their friends all seemed to disappear, replaced by similar creatures. Each man began to attack the illusion in a violent melee. Pai Li knelt beside her husband. With tears in her eyes, she begged the spirits for their aid. A single powerful whisper answered her cries. It asked how many lives were worth the life of her husband. As many as it wished, was Pai Li's answer. She would bring as many souls as it needed so long as her husband would live. The whisper demanded she begin with the bandits. She summoned blue flames which set alight each of the bandits. As the men burned, their souls were pulled from their body and into a dark portal that appeared above them. When the bandits were dead, Pai Li moved back to her husband, who began to stir back to life. But before he could open his eyes, another swirling portal opened up behind Pai Li and drew her inside. Now that we know the Trickster's backstory, let's take a quick look at her stats, and then we'll move on to her powers and perks. The Trickster has a 4.6 meters per second base speed, a 24 meter terror radius, and is a short killer. She's a fast, low to the ground killer and offers little warning in her approach, except if she has her spirit flames above her, which we'll learn about now by looking at her powers. The Trickster's power is called Spirit Fire. The Trickster starts the game with two small blue flames and one red flame hovering over her. She may place a blue spirit flame on a generator by using the left control button. Progress on a generator with a spirit flame on it is increased by 10% per survivor working on it, but skill checks are 10% more likely to occur per survivor working on it as well. Whenever a survivor fails a skill check on a generator with a spirit flame, or a generator with a spirit flame is completed, the flame waits for 3 seconds, then begins to chase the survivor who failed the skill check, or all survivors who were working on the generator when it was completed for 20 seconds. The flames move at 4.4 meters per second and are not hindered by vaults. Spirit flames remain on a generator until it is completed. If the flame hits the survivor, they take damage as if they were struck by the killer, and their location is revealed for 5 seconds. If the flame does not hit the survivor within 20 seconds, it fades away. Whenever a flame hits a survivor or fades away, a new one appears above the Trickster. The Trickster has a secondary power as well, called Touch of the Kitsune. The Trickster can use the M2 button to charge forward. If the Trickster touches the target of her charge, the target is transformed to look like the Trickster to other survivors with a red spirit flame. The survivor will have a 24 meter terror radius, a red light, and Touch of the Kitsune. If the tagged survivor keeps the illusion for 20 seconds, they take damage as if they were struck normally, lose the illusion, and the red flame returns to the Trickster, who transforms back into its normal form. Survivors can pass the illusion to other survivors by using Touch of the Kitsune, with a new 20-second timer starting each time it is passed on. The Trickster changes to look like the survivor that currently holds the red flame, and loses its red light and terror radius until it attacks the survivor. While transformed, the Trickster cannot lunge attack. If the Trickster attacks the survivor while transformed, it returns to its normal form, and the survivor with the red flame loses the illusion. The Trickster is a visual mind game killer whose spirit fire traps offer a sort of cursed luck for survivors while working on generators. They have the potential to get generators done faster, but at the risk of having to run and injure themselves if they mess up a skill check. They can increase both their luck and their potential for missing a skill check with more survivors on a generator as well. I think this power would combo well with perks like Discordance, Intimidating Presence, and even Tinkerer. Touch of the Kitsune is where the Trickster really starts to have some fun. Touching a survivor with it makes her a very stealthy killer, able to literally walk up to survivors and hit them, or simply search the map while survivors with Touch of the Kitsune try to find other survivors to pass the ability onto before they take damage. This game of tag not only forces survivors to do something other than heal or work on a generator, but it also gives the Trickster a way to find other survivors, because whoever has Touch of the Kitsune will be looking for them as well. All in all, I think the Trickster's powers will give her a unique way of applying pressure to the survivors and give her knowledge of what's going on around the map in a new and fun way. But now that we've looked at her powers, let's take a look at her perks. The Trickster's first perk is called Desperate Bargain. The entity has agreed to grant you a boon in exchange for the souls it needs to sustain itself, and you have agreed to deliver them. For every survivor you sacrifice, you gain a token. You may use a token on a generator or escape panel. The progress bar for a generator or escape panel with a token used on it is increased by 5, 10, or 15%. The Trickster's second perk is called Beyond the World of Light. The entity's realm is where you have come to serve, but memories of the past help to drive you onto your goals and help you lose your fear of the light. For every generator that is completed, you gain an additional 0.2% increase in speed and reduce the time you are blinded by lights by 0.5 seconds. The Trickster's final perk is Seeing is Believing. Deception is second nature to you, and playing on the greedy desires of others helps you to see their true selves. 4 toolboxes are added to the map. Survivors who open these toolboxes have their auras revealed for 2, 4, or 8 seconds. Items picked up from these boxes can be held but cannot be used. The items then disappear after 10 seconds after being picked up. And those are the Trickster's perks. I think Desperate Bargain makes for a great way to draw out the game and give yourself some additional time by using its tokens to make generators and escape panels take longer time to complete by encouraging you to sacrifice survivors. It may not be much, but it can sometimes make the difference between a generator being completed or not, especially when combined with something like Pop Goes the Weasel, Dying Light, or Thanatophobia. Beyond the World of Light is a very small speed boost at the end of the game, but combine it with something like Rancor and Lightborn, and now you have an extremely fast killer who's almost completely immune to flashlights and firecrackers during the endgame. It's not the best perk, but not every perk can be a hex ruin. Sometimes niche perks are a fun little addition, and I think Beyond the World of Light fits in this category. Seeing is Believing is a fun perk to mess with survivors' heads and make them hesitant to go into toolboxes once they realize you have it. And if you're fast enough to hit them, you could even confuse them by hitting them, the item disappearing, and make them think that you have Franklin's demise instead. A fun perk with some situationally good map knowledge and mind games baked into it. Well, that takes care of the Trickster. Now let's check out our newest survivor, David James. David James was just a teenager when his father died. His father, a man of extreme temperaments and opinions, left him with 2 very important lessons. Do whatever you can to help and protect those you care for, and show no mercy to those who threaten you or your loved ones. David took these lessons to heart and to the extremes when he left home and eventually joined up with a biker gang. He was quickly patched in and was quickly noted for his devotion to the gang and his brutality to those who would stand in their way. In fact, the gang noticed that luck always seemed to be on David's side because he came out of most every violent encounter with little to show for it beyond some scratches or bruises, while his enemies were left dead and bloody. He was a reliable, feared, and respected member of the gang after only a few short years. If a job absolutely had to be done, they called on David to see it through. And David knew that so long as he had his gang at his back, he could finish any mission. It wasn't until a large gang war erupted that David's luck seemed to finally run out. With multiple gangs suddenly pushing in on each other, David's gang was backed into a corner. They were ambushed during a weapons deal and pinned down by 2 rival gangs. As members of his gang began to drop one by one, David desperately tried to think of a way to escape with his fellow members. Some dark intuition took over him, and he began to know exactly where to aim his gun. His friends seemed to be missed by millimeters, and the fight somehow began to turn in their favor. As the fight ended, David ordered the others to put down any of the other surviving enemies, while he went into the warehouse where they stored their weapons to check on their gear. Except, when he entered the warehouse, there was only a dark fog and the twinkling of firelight ahead of him. Now that we know how David was brought into the realm of the entity, let's see what perks he's brought along to help out the other survivors. David's first perk is Not Done Yet.
Come on, team, it's a 4-on-1, so until you stop breathing, you're not done.
You start the game with 4 tokens. Whenever the killer would kill you, you have a 25% chance to stun the killer for 5 seconds, heal to the injured state, and increase your speed by 50% for 5 seconds for every survivor still alive. Whenever a survivor dies, you lose a token. David's second perk is
Destiny's Child. I'm a survivor.
and destiny seems to be on your side whenever you make an effort to achieve your goals. Whenever the killer misses an attack against you within 1, 3, or 5 meters, you gain a token. Whenever you drop a pallet, you lose a token, and the pallet is immediately reset to its original position. You can only ever have 1 token from Destiny's Child. David's third perk is Big Softy. You're a grizzled veteran of life, and years of living a hard life have given you a rough exterior, but deep down you're still a gentle soul who hates to see others suffer. Whenever you interact with an injured survivor or a survivor in the dying state, you may use the Activate Ability button to trade 1 health state of yours to heal that survivor 1 health state. This causes exhaustion and makes you broken for 60, 50, or 40 seconds. That takes care of David's perks. I think he brings some very solid but very thematically appropriate perks to the game. Not done yet is very situational but very extreme anti-Mori or anti-Rancor perk. It would probably see a lot of use at the beginning of new chapters when new killers pop up, but after that it'd be situational. Not amazing, but good for what it does. Destiny's Child would be an absolute top tier perk in my opinion. It would probably find its way into builds alongside Dead Hard, Lithe, or Balanced Landing. I should point out that if you drop the pallet with Destiny's Child and it hits the killer, the pallet doesn't break. It hits them, stuns them, but also immediately bounces back into its ready position. It would be an amazing perk at high level play. Big Softy is one of those perks that people would bring to make sure other people get up quickly. Combining it with perks like Self-Care, Inner Strength, Unbreakable, or even an insta-heal medkit would make it a solid perk for people looking to grab some quick altruism points. You just have to make sure that it's used wisely and nowhere near a killer unless it's a coordinated use of the perk. Overall, I think David's perks are solid, with the right use of them making them very good. I think he would definitely be a survivor you would want to grab for your roster. That's going to be it for this week's Killer Creation. I hope you all liked the Trickster and David James. If you did or didn't, please feel free to let me know in the comments. If you liked the video, please consider giving it a like. If you didn't, give it a dislike and let me know why down below. I hope you all have a great day, and as always, stay positive.